Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs for today, 13th of May 2022. Before we begin, quick quote of the day: respect is one of the greatest expressions of love. Let us start respecting ourselves. Let us start respecting what we use. Let us start respecting the people who love us. Let us also start respecting the kind of the work that we do and what we aspire for. If we have respect for whatever we do, automatically love will start pouring to us as well. With this, if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. Let's begin the discussion. What we are going to cover today are rising inflation in the country and food production to dip because of climate change and issues, Ujjwala Scheme, latest update about the same. We will also understand gas power plants which are due to getting constructed in Andaman Nicobar, protected mobility vehicles demanded by the government, what is happening in Varanasi, what is the background of the issue, and we will also understand an update about Insecog and black hole. Let's begin this discussion. Rising inflation. It is in all the newspapers that the consumer price inflation is at all-time high of years and years. Be it urban areas or rural areas, inflation is high. Now this image is indicative of the consumer price index and how the inflation in consumer price has been seen all throughout. So if you look at the food inflation has been 8.3%, 8.38% in the country, and food inflation weighs as much as 47%, almost 47% in the consumer price index. Along with that, there's another index for fuel and light. Fuel and light inflation is almost 11%. We know that the demand for fuel has increased in the country. Coal crisis, petroleum import, the import of gases, all have become costly. And along with that, food, these are the major indicators that drive the headline inflation, that is called as the consumer price inflation. There are other inflation also. For example, supply side inflations are also there, but those are the core inflation. So when we divide inflation in two parts, core inflation, in which the more volatile component of food and fuel are not kept, that is also high, and the retail inflation that you see amongst people, that is definitely high. So this is the issue here. And vegetables, spices, oil, fats, all of these rates have gone up. But then there are a couple of things to note. See, even despite the low base effect, last May was the COVID times, the second wave of the COVID, and that time the inflations were low, right? The indexes were low. But even despite this low base effect, we will still see inflation above 6%. We will see in May as well, and later on as well. So that is one critical thing to note. That means there is definitely some level of inflation. But some items, prices have eased down in the international market. What are the items? Skimmed milk powder, SMP, that's being imported around the world. Pulses, ghee, all these prices have come down. Of course, they did skyrocket, but they have come down, eased a little right now. So some relief being provided. This is the update. Along with that, we must also see what is the remark of the RBI, Informal Remarks. So an Informal Remark states, in the next 6 to 8 months, we will get inflation down by killing whatever little demand there is. And this will happen the world over. All central banks, including RBI, are going to drive this economies into declining demand. Now, although this could be the policy statement or an informal statement by an officer in the RBI, however, the reality is that the inflation is not high because of huge demand from the people. The economy is still reeling from the burden of the COVID. So higher food demand and commodity prices do exist. But more than that, supply chain disruptions exist. More than that, when the economy has gotten formalized, the cost has risen around the whole world. Simple example is that of the retail market, the food market. Now, informal, people sitting in the market, and then we have food basket. We have items getting delivered at a home. When we include these items in the formal prices, the price automatically rises because of taxation, because of other supply chain issues. These are the factors that must be controlled or managed well, right? So what we need are controlling down the geopolitical tensions. What we need is a better supply chain management system in the country. What we also need is a great input for places like China, where zero COVID policy, stringent policy must not be there. So these are the important things that are required. RBI's measure to control the supply of money will only decrease the overall GDP of the country. So that is an issue that must be tackled. We have dealt with this in today's editorial as well. Please have a look at that important update. Now, this this update that we just discussed could be related to the next update, that is on dip in food production. A research body which is called as International Food Policy Research Institute, it has said that by 2030 the net demand for food will be high, net production for food will be high. However, the supply and demand mismatch will not be there, and this will leave many Indians, as many as 500 million people around the whole world, and quite a few million people around India also, in a starving situation. India's food production could drop 16%, and the number of those at risk for hunger could increase 23% by 2030 if climate change is accounted for, right? So in India, the food production could drop, but overall the food production will be high in the world. However, supply chain mismatches will be there. The reason for such mismatches are quite a few. For example, regional difference in access to food. Access to food is not there at all places. Even when we have good production of onion, sometimes it's not accessible to everybody. Similarly, diet shifting is also happening. People are shifting to products like milk, fruits and vegetables. That is going to sort the demands, and availability, if not there, that will cause a problem. Similarly, geopolitical crisis and disruptions of COVID-like scenario, these have not been accounted for. If these are accounted for, there will be further crisis around the whole world. So the number of Indians at risk from hunger in 2030 will be at around 7 crore. And if the effect of climate change had to be factored in, it would be 9 crore people deeply affected because of hunger, risk of hunger. Remember the Sustainable Development Goals, eliminating the hunger from the country. So this is the issue here. Food production, and how have they modeled this? Food production equating with food consumption, equating with net trading of commodities, and population risk going hungry. All right. Another update is from Ujjwala Scheme. This is the scheme for gas connection distribution. Started in the year 2016. The idea was to have a formal connection, network of connection, so that we could provide a formal channel for the gas supplies. This would reduce the in-home pollution levels, air pollution levels. The idea was to start with 8 crore of delivery of these kind of gas connections at places, 8 crore households. And then in Ujjwala Part 2, the idea was to increase it to 1 crore further. The government started subsidizing this. The government also gave free gas connections, free gas stoves also along with it in the second connection. However, the update is not very, very good. The update says that during in the last financial year, 90 lakh beneficiaries have did not fill their cylinders. So they did not get the cylinders filled. In fact, 1 crore of the beneficiaries refilled their cylinders only once. Out of the 8 crore people that we had, or 8 to 9 crore people, a couple of crore didn't get their refilling of the cylinders at all. So what does this speak about the economy? One thing that could definitely be taken off is the rising prices of cylinder and people's less awareness about the pollution and ill effects of air pollution, because air pollution is one of the reasons for diseases, morbidity, mortality, especially in the rural areas. And you should look at this chart. This chart talks about the states where LPG coverage was very good, 98% LPG coverage. However, these are the people who are using lesser of clean fuel. So what are the states? West Bengal, Rajasthan, Assam, UP, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Haryana, Manipur, Kerala, Punjab, Sikkim, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. But the share of households that use clean fuel was less, even when they have the level of network of gas supplies. So what should be the understanding here? Awareness of people, right? And on the side of government, providing LPG at subsidized rates, for the subsidized rate. Let us not increase the cost of subsidized LPGs as much. Gas powered plants, update from Andaman Nicobar. See, Andaman Nicobar is an isolated place. Although tropical area, receiving good amount of sunlight, but then the weather circumstances are very, very erratic there. That place goes through storms. The place also goes through intense rains because of being tropical area. So therefore, sunlight is not one of the means for providing energy. And the place is in high demand. Why? Because Andaman, placed at around Andaman Sea, Bay of Bengal, this is an important transit point going towards the east of Asia. The India government, Niti Aayog, have also planned development of Andaman Nicobar, developing of metro rail connectivity along the coastline, developing of airports here, development of transshipment portal and trading hub. All those things have been planned, but then energy is required. So right now what we are doing here is using diesel as the source of energy. But diesel as a source of energy for converting to electricity and power is tough, and we know the kind of issues. It is also not clean for a place like Andaman Nicobar, which needs clean energy. So government says we will be starting the gas power plant projects here for initiation of energy. However, these will be dual power plants, because there are times when diesel must be used as the backup fuel during very rough weather circumstances. So this is the update, and that is the reason government has also made a special exception to this area, because coastal regulations do not allow the gas power plants to be set at certain areas near coastal zones. However, the government is still going ahead with an exception, accepted the exception for this place to develop Andaman Nicobar Islands. Protected mobility vehicles being demanded by the government for armed forces. So mobility in terrains like the high altitude terrains, desert area, plain areas, this should be able to house the forces, and should be it should be a vehicle which should be able to counter the mines, landmines as well. Each person carrying a weight of 30 kilos. And so that's how the government has released the tender for protected mobility vehicles for the country. All right, mine protection vehicles, all those things. Varanasi, Gyanvapi Mosque in news. Why so? So lately, the court, one of the lower courts, had asked the Archaeological Survey of India to survey this whole place to understand if the Gyanvapi Mosque does contain some elements of another religious site or not. Now, these places are popular, a little popular. We are talking of Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi, and similar kind of issues do exist at Mathura and Ayodhya as well, where mosque and temple have found to be coexistent at those places. Now, the issue here is that the ladies, they asked the authorities to allow them to worship their certain sites inside the mosque, considering religious significance all the times. Sometimes they would be allowed to be prayed here, but they asked for perennial opening of this place. Now that is why I would like to quickly consider the Places of Worship Act. What does it say? It says that the nature of all places of worship, except the one in Ayodhya that was under litigation, shall be maintained as it was on August 15, 1947. That means okay, let's read it. No encroachment or any other subplace prior to the date can be challenged in courts applies to the disputed complex in Varanasi. That means that all the places of worship, the situation they were adopted in 1947, August 15th, that situation will be maintained barring some exceptions. That means if the situation was that this mosque belonged to the Islam religion and the temple here belonged to the Hindu religion, they would be praying there. But then if there is a request to pray inside, how should it be maintained? This is where one must get into the roots to understand what are the issue here. See, there was an existent temple here, Vishweshwar temple earlier, and then it was destructed because of political reasons. 17th century Aurangzeb, and a Gyanvapi Mosque was constructed. Gyanvapi Mosque because of the name of the well aside this place, which would mean the well of wisdom. Gyanvapi, well of wisdom, and that's how Gyanvapi Mosque was instituted. And Kashi Vishwanath temple was later on instituted in the 18th century by Ahilyabai Holkar at the same place, same site, just adjacent. There are some instances, some examples which can demonstrate that there was a temple existent here, and that is why some research is going on with the help of Archaeological Survey of India to understand if the place should be allowed for worship for other people or not. So that is the conflict here. Moving ahead to understand INSECOG. Now, this Association for Research on Genome Sequencing, which was for India, the Prime Minister has said we will expand it over whole South Asia. So, genomic sequencing of all the COVID strains will happen for the type of people, ethnicity of people, how COVID transmits, and what regions it has impacted more, the spread over whole South of Asia across the labs. Now, this is something that is influencing India's position strongly in South Asia. I had said this would happen for the South Asia. And that's what we have seen. See, developments in medicine, science, finances, all this, information technology, all this will translate to South Asia from India, emanate from India. Black hole, oh yes, in all the newspapers around today, this is the first image captured of the black hole at the galactic center of our own galaxy, that is the Milky Way galaxy. So from Event Horizon Telescope, they found out this is how the black hole looks like, which is at the galactic center. All right, stars also have black holes when they evolve. Stars also become as black holes, right? So similarly, this is the black hole at intergalactic center, that is the Milky Way. Asha Worker and news. This is from Odisha. This beautiful lady from Odisha. Her name is Matilda Kullu, right? And she belongs to Sundargarh district of Odisha. She is in the top 100 powerful women of India. Why is she news? Is because even during COVID times, she would serve at least 40 to 50 homes every day. She helped during COVID times, and even now she's serving as many as 964 people in one tehsil of Sundargarh district. So just earning a meager salary of 4 to 5,000 rupees, servicing innumerable people in her tehsil area, and getting up at 5 a.m., working at her own home, and then going so many places, and then trying to help children and everybody, children and elders. Now, this is a great step by Asha Worker. She shows how one individual and their simple task can make them a powerful individual in the Forbes India Women Power List 2021. Great step ahead. If you like this initiative, share some love, questions, put down in the comment section, and we will see you in the feature news for today. Thank you for watching.